Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah. Here we are on a beautiful Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. On a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. And I am streaming Schwami Streams, coding fun, and a bit of chaos. That's what we do here on the stream. Coding fun and a bit of chaos. And I am psyched to be here. Been having fun all week, but today's only Tuesday. But last week and this week, I've got a lot of streaming going, and it is so much fun to do these live streams, excuse me, and to code live, like with everybody, and with comments and people helping and giving suggestions and giving ideas and stuff like that. It has been a lot of fun, and I cleaned my glasses live on camera, which is like, what more could you ask for? And I've been having a good time. So I am going to be getting into the coding today, and let's switch over. I don't have a whole lot of chit chat today, but let's switch over to my screen, my desktop there. Yeah, all right, cool. And just checking on a couple things. There's a lot to manage in this whole streaming thing. Okay, now let's see. Let's close off. I like to start off by closing everything and get into some work. What I'd like to do today, I think I wanted to do this yesterday, but it didn't exactly happen as I anticipated, was to work on this back-end project and get into writing some code in this orchestrator, right? Now, yesterday, I anticipated building out like my validator and things like that. But yesterday, it became a little obvious that I didn't actually need that. Excuse me. It sort of became clear that maybe I didn't need to do that. So I'm going to change this a little bit. So I have the orchestrator, and the orchestrator is going to orchestrate through these small single responsibility services that I'm going to build. And validate, I'm just going to add myself a note in here. May not need that just yet. Thanks to what's the word I'm looking for? Thanks to the attribute-based validation, right? Thanks to attributes. Okay, and so I might not need that yet, but I will go on to next steps in here. So what I'm going to do, as I said, when I get this feedback entry object coming in here, I would validate it, but I might not need to do that anymore. Then I'm going to convert it into a domain object, and then I'm going to save it. So in order to do that, I need to have some sort of domain object. And I'm going to go into here, and I sometimes call these folders different things, but I think I'm going to call this domain. Sometimes I call it domain, sometimes I call it entity. Haven't really settled on that. But this is my domain model. And as a matter of fact, the domain model is also going to work with the database project. And I did start the database project yesterday, right? So in here, I also need to add a new table. I could start by that. We can start at the bottom of the stack, and I'm going to say add new item. I feel like I've got a eyelash or something like that in my glasses or something. I don't know where that is. Let's try table, and let's do that. And I'm going to call this table feedback. This is where it all starts, with the feedback that's going to go into the SQL database that will be in Azure. And I've done this a few times. Again, I'm kind of rusty at a lot of this stuff because I don't write code every day. I certainly don't do this stuff every day. And so, you know I'm going to have like a team ID. Call that an int. Can I call that an int? Oh, look what's going on here. Hello. Oh. Hello. I'm getting nervous.
I got a bad feeling about this.
What happened here? Visual Studio just did something. Visual Studio. Hello. It says not responding. It crashed. What? Visual Studio just crashed. You're seeing stuff that that was not even for the stream. That's just some other stuff. Visual Studio just crashed. Oh, and I got this thing open. I don't want to have my personal email out here. What the heck just happened? So let's try this again. I wonder if I should be using this presentation mode too. Forgot about that. Let's go to that. Let's use presentation mode. Because presentation mode is actually pretty cool. And it will enhance certain fonts and things like that. So maybe I should be doing that anyway. And this doesn't even have in my list. Oh, because I haven't used it in presentation mode. That's okay. Presentation mode keeps track of different things in its recent. It's really like a whole different instance of Visual Studio from a settings perspective. And so I'm going to go into, what do I even call this thing? Feedback, team feedback. I got to remember what my project is called. That's a good way to start, right? Team feedback. Let's do that. And well, that was sort of unexpected. As I'm preparing myself, as Visual Studio is eagerly, excitedly preparing my solution, I'm going to close all this again. And I'm going to go, sort of decided to open different things, you know, and align itself differently. Now, if I go back to my feedback table, so last time I tried this, the whole thing crashed. If you were here a minute ago, I'm going to try this again. So I'm going to say team ID. I made the same typo that time too. That was kind of interesting. Team ID. And I go like that. And now last time I hit, uh-oh. Wow. What's going on? Wait. Oh, look at that. Not responding a second time. Oh. What? What? Wow. I cannot believe this. Visual Studio. Oh, Visual Studio just crashed twice on my stream. Twice. Oh. Oh, this is not looking like a great day. So, I mean, I have other ways of doing this. It's not the end of the world, but this is crazy. Just going to check a look over here. It didn't seem like a performance thing. It didn't seem like a performance thing, right? I'm not really in terrible shape here from a performance standpoint. Well, I mean, let's wait until this starts up, right? Once again, it's deciding to, you know, open all these tabs, even though I say close all. And if I go to Solution Explorer, I don't want to try it again. So I think I'm going to do it differently. So this UI is tied to this design surface right here. And it might mean that I need to update something in Visual Studio. I thought my Visual Studio was up to date. I am somewhat shocked right now and a little concerned about the idea of trying this again. But what I could do is I could do it down here. As a matter of fact, let's do this. Watch, if I type in team ID, it fills it in down there for me, right? So there's no reason why I can't just say int, and I'll say not null, right? And this is going to work. You see what's happening here. Now, the last time when I changed this at the top, it was not happy. But now that I'm typing it down here, it doesn't seem to mind as much. So, trying to figure out how brave I should be in terms of trying this again. In any case, what did I call these up? Let's go back and take a look at my, I think it's in here, my feedback entry. So in here, I have a team ID, a sprint end date is what I was using. So I'll do the same thing. I'll say sprint end. Okay, and I don't want to click this button here because this seems like this is just trouble. So what do I want to make this? Like date? I forget. Is it date time? It's just date, I think. Date. It went to lowercase here, which is interesting. Date. And this is going to be not null. And I am like a little nervous. This thing is freaking me out here. The other tunes I have are like, if things went well. I'm going to change this a little bit. I'm going to call it rating and is better. Because I'm going to change this up a little bit. So I'm going to say, I'll just call it feedback. How about that? Feedback. Oh, come on. Feedback. And in here, I'm going to say, better than last. Why don't I say compare? I'm trying to be generic here. I like that. Compared. So that'll compare it to the previous sprint. I mean, I know what it means, right? And for that, I'm going to use an int as well. So I'm going to say int. And this feedback is going to be an int. No, yeah, feedback is going to be an int. And these are all going to be not null. Not null. Now, I feel like I should also add some dates on here, right? Like update date and updated by, updated date. And updated by, and this will be a date. This will also be not null. Let's just do it. Everything is not null really in this thing. Let's face it. I'm getting nervous when I see like a little spinner coming on. If you're just tuning in, I was having some weird problems with Visual Studio, which was just freaking out and making me nervous. And updated by is going to be like a varchar. I don't want to change that thing at the top. So I'm going to say varchar 100 or something like that because I'm not even sure what I'm going to put in there. If I'm going to put a name or an ID. But for now, I don't mind changing that later. That gives me my table. Varchar, updated date, updated by. Okay, that's going to tell me who provided the feedback. I have some values for the feedback. Nothing in here is null. Or I could change this to be created date. That's probably the way I normally do this. Created date. There is no updated date. Unless I allow it to be modified. Updated by. I wonder if I should call that updated user. How about that updated user? And you know what? Let's do it while I'm in here. let's just go to this thing. Come on, I'm not getting my cursor. Give me a comma. Give me a place to, where's my cursor? I don't see my cursor. Is it invisible? Let's try something. Yeah, my cursor is not giving me a cursor character. See that? There's no, I don't know. Updated date and, oh no, sorry. What's going on? Oh, I didn't change this to be, this can be created user and updated user. And so that will give me a little bit of a table to put these things in. And I'll save that. Let's just hope this thing doesn't crash again. I don't know. Should I try it again? I'm just so curious to click this again. See what happens. If it crashes, it crashes. It's going to crash. It's going to crash. Totally crashing. Totally crashing. I am not really sure what's going on with Visual Studio and this, what do you call this? This is like a SQL design editor, something like that. I don't think we'll have this problem again. I don't plan on going into this again. Oh, well, that's the first time that's happening too. Visual Studio encountered a problem and was shut down. Choose which of the following files you wish to restore from backups. I saved everything. Do I want? This is the thing that I never really know. Like, if I recover it, is it going to have my changes or is it not going to have my changes? It says most recent backup was at 11:59. See, I want to be able to compare them here. And this is one of those things that bothers me always. So last write time was at 11:50, most recent backup. So I guess I want the backup. I'm going to go for it. Recover selected files. Let's see what happens. I have no idea what's going to happen here. Well, it's probably too soon to even hit the drum roll, but no idea what's going to happen here. Oh yeah, of course. It keeps just going to my old files again, even though I closed all of them. Closed all tabs. Let's go to this. Well, I already put it in the fields I had, so I guess I can't complain. What is this thing? Refactor Log. I've never even seen that before. I mean, I'm in commit changes here, right? So I don't, that's not even a file. Oh, I do see that. What is that? Refactor Log. What does this tell me? Rename refactor. Oh, this must be to keep track of when it so it does a deployment. If I rename something, it knows that I renamed something. Certain kind of refactorings could cause trouble, right? And it needs to know that that's not a new column, but that's a renaming. And that's interesting. I don't recall seeing that in the past. I wonder if that's something new. Or it's possible I've just never noticed it before. I don't work with these data projects all the time, but it makes sense to me. That, let's see, it knows that the new name is updated date. Okay, whatever. Interesting that I've never really used this yet and it knows it's a refactoring, but that's fine. So I've got this. Now what I need to do is create a domain entity that matches this. So let's go into my data. Into my, oh, see, I created that folder. Wait, not in there. I created a folder in backend that seems to be gone. I wonder if it's on disk, even though Visual Studio doesn't have it. Because I created it. See, look. See that? Oh, I made it small. I shouldn't have done that. So here's this folder, and the folder is not in here. And the reason for that is because Visual Studio crashed and my project file didn't get saved. So I think I'm just going to do like include existing file, which I can do like add. How do you add an existing folder? Existing item is not a folder. Oh, maybe, yeah, sure, it'll be a folder. Here. I'll just do that. Oh, see, it wants file name. Oh, what a pain in the neck. If I try to do this, it's probably going to tell me the folder exists. The folder's empty. So I'm just going to delete it. It doesn't really matter. And I'm going to try this again. And so, you know, I don't want to say I like when these things happen when I'm streaming, but I think it helps with imposter syndrome, right? That people think that, oh, these problems only happen to me, you know, me, not me, but you, me, you know, whoever's watching this. And these problems happen to everybody. These same things that just like go weird all the time. So I'll do that. I probably could have updated the project file and put that in there if I wanted to, right? I probably could have came in here and just said include domain. And I bet that would have worked as well. And I'd like to try that. I'm going to try that. So if I delete this item group, I try to use this time, not only, I'm trying to use this time to learn things, right? Let's just see. Yeah, that was domain, okay? So if I say yes and I hit save on that, I think it would go away. Yes, that went away. And if I look at it on disk, oh, no, this is not it. Let's go back to it over here. Open folder and file explorer. So the back end. So domain is still there, right? And that's to be expected, right? Because I changed the project file. So now, if I want to bring that back in, and I didn't really see a way to do it, it's probably in here somewhere. I'm just not seeing it. But what I could do is say item group, and I don't know what it even was. Include, was it import? Oh no, sorry, I created this import group. That's the wrong thing. Let's try that again. Item, oh you know, item, item group, and then I'm going to say folder. Do I have to do like include folder or just folder? You know, I should have paid attention to what it was. I'm going to say folder. Folder what? Include. There it is, right? And I think it was something like domain. I think that's what it was. Let's see what happens if I save it. I'll either crash this thing completely or I will get it right. And it didn't show up over here. So that means, was there another character in here? You know, I'm just like doing stuff. Let's just play around here. Let's just do Control Z. Oh, Control Z isn't doing anything. Wait, why isn't Control Z doing anything? That's odd also. Right? So is Visual Studio just completely on the fritz today? Why didn't that work? Oh, well, maybe it's the slash. If I do that and hit save, looking for it over here, because this one has a slash. That's a project reference. You know, it's becoming clear that I really don't know what I'm doing. I think there was probably another character there. And Control Z is not doing anything? Like, why is Control Z broken? Because if I do this, okay, Control Z is working for that, but it doesn't work for the fact that I changed this character. And now it's Control Y works. Control Z only works for one character at a time now. That's craziness also. So which one is it? Well, I know what I'll do. See, why don't these folders show as included? There's nothing odd. What if I look at this? Project reference, framework. No folders in any of these. Folder, include, okay. Oh, the slash is on the wrong side. So, you know, okay, this is one way to figure things out, right? So let's try it that way. And now I have to go to the right project and save it. And it worked. Look at that. Okay. So that's kind of odd that the slash is on the end, but I guess that means include the folder and anything inside it. Now I don't fully understand why these folders don't have includes when that one did. The mysteries continue. Mysteries abound. Is that the right way to say that phrase? The mysteries are abound. Well, whatever the case is, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to create something called a feedback. Okay. Now, what I also have, I added some reusable stuff that I have up in here. And hopefully I got the naming right of some of this other stuff as I was doing it. So I have this base entity that I use, okay? And I have, there should also be, oh, maybe this doesn't even have that yet. So what I want to say is that this thing is an entity, okay? And by doing this, adding a project reference to this common.NET stuff. So by doing that, I don't need to say, right, this should cause trouble because it's already part of this entity. And that's just some stuff I do because I have certain other classes that I'm going to use that sort of will provide some automatic repository kind of stuff if I use an entity. So now I just need to go into this thing, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this stuff. My phone's buzzing a lot. And I'm just going to paste this in here because you know what I could do? I could steal some of it from this shared thing. I changed a bit of it. Now let's go with this because I think I like some of these better names now. So I'm going to say prop int team ID, prop date time sprint end, prop int feedback, prop int compared, and then prop date time created date, prop bar string created by. Now see here I used user and there I used created by. The fact that I typed created by makes me feel like that's the way I normally do this. Not like my fingers know that, but I don't know. I'm going to keep it in there. And then I can just do this. Updated and updated user. And I think I'll make this nullable because we might not have an updated date. And that should give me feedback. Doesn't like it to have the same name as the properties can't have the same name as the class that they are within. And that's going to annoy me. I could call this feedback value for now. Or maybe even just value. And I have to change the other thing as well, value. I don't know. Does it matter? Value is probably a keyword some other places. That's going to cause trouble. But I don't know. Let's go with that. I wonder if I got a new refactor because I renamed that thing. No. Oh, yeah. Feed. No, it didn't. So who knows? Maybe because it was never allowed. I don't know. So very quiet here. I feel like I might be by myself, and that's okay because I'm learning stuff and I'm making progress on this project, which is what I'm here to do. So let's see. It's 12:17 at my time. If you're joining me, I'm working on some server-side logic for my Blazor app. And so now what I want to do is I'm going to add a converter. Right, so in my mini services, I have a validator, which I end up not using. I'm going to add a new folder. And I'm going to add a folder for converter. And I'm going to go in here and call this the feedback converter. And this is going to return a feedback. Okay. Public feedback. Yeah, I knew that was going to be a problem. Public feedback to domain. And I'm going to take in a feedback entry. Okay. And I'll add some usings or whatever I need in here. And essentially this is going to just be like result equals new feedback result. That won't do anything, of course, yet, but it will soon. So it's a feedback converter. It's going to create that new feedback. It's going to return that thing. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to I keep getting confused by the tools I have. I'm going to go here and say extract interface. I'll keep it in the same file. And I've got that. Okay. I don't think I need any of this stuff. Anyway, I hate extra usings. And now, what am I doing here? So next, I'm going to go back to my orchestrator, and I need to inject in this thing, right? Simple as that. Let's create a constructor. Okay, and I'm going to create an instance. I'm going to say private read only I Oh, come on. Feedback converter. Which, I want this to have an underscore on it, so that'll be that. Okay, now this is going to tell me to that. Okay, I don't like these things being in here. And now I'm going to basically say that I want to take one of those things and I want to pass it into my constructor. And this is dependency injection, folks. If you're new to that, it's just pretty straightforward, even though it doesn't seem like it would be. So what I've done is I've taken this dependency, this thing that I need, and I need to use it in here, and I inject it through the constructor. I take a feedback converter, and now I have one that I can use. Now, I haven't provided a feedback converter to this constructor yet. That's in a somewhat slightly different topic where we get into inversion of control containers and things like that, which .NET Core or ASP.NET Core has built in. So I can wire it. I still have to wire it up, and I might change it anyway, but let's just go over here, and then I'm going to say var domain equals feedback converter to domain. I'm going to pass in my feedback entry. And with that, I would have a domain object. Okay. And then I need to save it. Now, I haven't really converted it yet, but that's okay. The converter doesn't do anything, but I'm just sort of putting the structure together. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my mini services and I'm going to create another folder. And I'm going to call this data service. And in here, I'm going to create an empty file. I'm going to call this the feedback data service.cs. And this feedback data service is going to have a method. And I think it's going to be, well, let's just make it void for now. It's probably going to need to be async. Well, in theory, maybe not. I can come back to that later. Public void add feedback. And I'm going to take a feedback. Okay, and we got to add a reference to that. Okay, and that's going to be void. So technically, that's is that going to be void? Let's leave it as void for now. And so now I'm going to come over to this thing. I'm going to extract my interface again. The I feedback service, add it to the current file. Okay, and we got all this stuff in here which I don't need. And I'm going to go to my feedback orchestrator and I'm going to say private read only I feedback service or whatever that is, feedback data service. I'm going to say for some reason this thing, I should figure out how to configure the tip thing that happens there. Now, when I use ReSharper, which I do a lot, which I guess I don't have on this computer, it does that for me. So where do I configure that? Maybe tools, options. Gotta be honest, I don't even know where that is. Environment extension. Is it an extension that's doing that? Because I do have some extensions in there. It's not a template, right? I don't know what that is. How? Okay, let's Google that. Let's learn something together. I feel like I need a song for that. Let's learn something together. wrong spot. So Visual Studio, change default naming convention for fields, right? Name for name. Mac. Not what I want. Oh, that says Mac, so that's not going to help me. See that? Code style naming rules. General syntax, kind, come on. Is this just naming rules? Editor dot editor config file. You can define naming rules. Where's that? Editor.config file. I think this is one of the new things, or somewhat new. Where do I find that? Probably in here. Let's try this. Visual Studio. The same thing. Visual Studio options dial. You can still set your own personal editor preferences in Visual Studio options dialog box. So you can add an editor config to your project or code base to enforce consistent coding styles that everyone works with. Editor config takes precedence over global Visual Studio text editor settings. This means you can tailor each code base, right? So I would like to do that. Advanced format. When you add an editor config file to your project in Visual Studio, new lines of code are formatted according to the editor config. I'm not sure that's the same thing, but maybe it is, because I have like .NET naming rules. These are making things suggestions. Like, is field in here? Field. So, I mean, again, this goes back to the options thing, that it should be in here. Tools, options. It's not IntelliCode, I don't think. I have Roslinator installed, and I thought maybe it was in one of these things. Maybe it's one of these things that's doing it for me. Oh, look who's here today. I think the idea of editor config is so that it can go into the repository and be shared across. Yeah. Marcus Voice Programmer is here. Hello. Yeah, no, I got that. I just want to change, you know, here's what I'm running into. Sometimes it gets confusing between tools and what you have installed in Visual Studio. And so I want these automatically to get underscores, right, when I do this thing, right? And whatever prompt is coming from here. Now, I don't remember if that's coming from Visual Studio or if that's coming from Roslinator. It's kind of what I was thinking. So, and I could put it in the, in the editor config file so that we could share, but I'm the only developer, and that's why I sort of punted on that. And I'm coming back to, I wonder, there's no search in here. I'd have to go to, is that a search? Oh, field. Introduce and initialize a field. Introduce, is this something I can click on? See, these are just allowing them. This isn't really it, I don't think. So, search options, field. Coding style, general. Aha, I think this is what I wanted. And I haven't done this in a long time. I definitely don't want this is on here. Var, code block preferences, parentheses preferences, expression preferences. And here's that editor config, by the way. Look at that. I can go right to editor config if I want to. Where's naming? Variable preferences. Inline. See, I don't know. This might just be for when I do like code cleanup. I don't know. Let's see. Modifier using parameter. This does not give me the... I really want to be caring about this right now. You know, I was having fun getting things done, so I'm just going to leave it and live to fight another day with that. So I've got my feedback data service, and then I'm going to say feedback data service dot add feedback, and I'm going to take the domain object and pass that in there. Okay, now I never really did the second part of this, so I have to say feedback equals. Oh, I didn't add one of them. Okay, let's add it here. So just doing a little bit of dependency injection. Oops. Somehow I screwed up my buffer there. And tools, options, text editor, C# code style naming. Oh, you know, who's that? Degs, if I'm seeing that right. Take a look at something here. Degs says tools, options, text editor, C#. I mean, I can't walk away, right? We have to figure this out. Tools, options, okay, we knew that. Text editor is where I'm at. C# code style naming. I was on general. Oh, look at that. So these are non-field members, or Pascal case. Types begin with an I. And maybe I need to add another one, because I want field members, because these are fields. Private or internal field. See, there is no way to say I want it to start with an underscore. Visual Studio might just not do that for me out of the box. And I have other things that do that for me, like ReSharper for one, which I'm a big fan of, which I don't have installed on this computer, especially not in presentation mode, because I try to do these things like clean, just using ReSharper, because I think that throws a lot of people off. But I don't know. I'm not sure I'm going to get there in here. It's there. He says it's there. She. I don't know. Manage naming styles. I love it. I love it. Well, okay. So I would add one and required prefix. Okay, so I add my own. I'm going to call this underscore. I don't know. Required prefix is going to be that. Capitalization. Yep. I think with the delay, I'm probably doing that. Now this is Pascal case, so I'm going to do camel case. And this should show what it's going to look like. And this is kind of cool because I can see everything right here. I didn't get a full box here. And if I do that, then I could say, now I'm going to come in here, I'm going to do add. And I'm going to add for private or internal field. Private, well, it's really not private or, it's private. Well, yeah, okay, that'll work, I think. And I'm going to say underscore. And I don't know, let's just say suggestion. Now, is this going to do what I really want it to do? Let's find out. Did it just do that for me? Let's try this out. Private string, no, private let's come up with some other thing. Enumerable or something like that. Enumerable. And it says enumerable. It put the underscore in there, right? It did it, like whatever other thing I typed was. Okay, look at that, that worked. Yeah. Nailed it, right? Okay. Well, that was kind of cool. These are the little side trips that we take. That big thanks to Degs and Marcus Voice Programmer for throwing in some tips and stuff like that. You know, I used to know this stuff, right? This is what's kind of embarrassing. Is like I used to know this stuff. I used to know these ins and outs. And not programming every day has really sort of softened those skills that I have. They really have. And I guess that's to be expected. And that's why I'm doing this show, to kind of get back into it, to learn new things and take other people on the journey while I'm sort of learning or relearning things. And so happy to have people here with me helping out as community developing, as I've said before. So now I'm going to continue down this path of this feedback data service. Now, this is where things are going to get interesting, I think, from possibly a debate standpoint, because I think there are going to be people here that might agree with the way I do things and might not agree with the way I do things. But I'm going to try to explain it along the way. And the first thing to say is that this is not just a pet project. This is a project that will be put into place at work, right? And we have certain standards. We have certain standard architecture that we follow so that other developers can come in here and get into it. So I'm going to take some extra steps that might seem like overkill in this particular application, but they're going to be right for my organization. Now, we could talk about that along the way too. I'm happy to sort of talk through these things. I think Marcus Voice Programmer, let's see, let's get this one on deck queued up and say, Marcus Voice Programmer says, I think if you type parameter, you can refactor to declare the private variable by pressing Control+ with the focus on the variable. I think if you type parameter, if you type the parameter, you can refactor to declare a private variable. Using Control+, declare the private. Oh, I think you're talking about this. Maybe you're maybe talking about these kind of things where you can like add it. Again, this is a question of tooling, but if I say like string foo, sometimes you could do, it's probably in here, and it'll create the backing variable for you as well. Introduce an initialize property foo. Introductional field foo, right? Those kind of things. If I do that, see, it created this for me. And this is something I've done before as well. Now, again, I tend to use ReSharper all the time, and I'm really thinking about installing it here. And that's kind of what's throwing me for a loop, is because I use ReSharper, and I know I have like just my muscle memory will sort of get me there. And then I could change this. I would have to change this refactoring a little bit as well to say when it introduces that variable, create it with the underscore and things like that. And so it's close. It's not exactly what I want. I do find it interesting that it gave it the same spelling. And then you have this. And I got to tell you, pet peeve of mine, I do not like the this keyword. Necessary sometimes, sure, but I try to do without. Not a big fan of the this keyword all over my code. But yeah, thanks for sharing that tip as well. That is something that I do a lot as well. I try to sometimes talk about the slow way of doing things when I'm writing code so that people see these, and then eventually I inject in like, now, did you know you can refactor this? You can right click it, you can do things. There's so many different ways, but that's one of the things I love. I don't know about you all, but what I love is doing paired programming. And every time I do paired programming, I either teach somebody something or learn something from somebody. And I don't mean code, but it's always one of these cool, like they do a Control G plus semicolon, whatever, and it does this magic thing. And you're always like, whoa, what was that? That was so cool, right? That's one of the great things about working together with other people. Anyway, I was going to get into this data service. Now, inside my data service, I'm going to have another layer. So I'm going to add another folder here. Again, this is based on some conventions that I like, and you might not, and that's okay. But it'd be kind of interesting to discuss these things as a group. So in here, I have an integrations. Integration. I guess I was being singular, so let's say integration. Integration. Spelling is correct. And then in here, I'm going to add another folder. I'm a big fan of organization, by the way, if you haven't noticed. Another folder, and in there, I'm going to say repository. Okay, and all my repository is going to be in this repository folder, but we often have other integrations that go in this. So I might have another folder for maybe HTTP services that I might call, HTTP clients and things like that I might call, and those would go also in integration, not just a repository, which is like an entity framework repository. Marcus Voice Programmer says, when you want to remove unused using, is if you click the paintbrush, it will do it for you. Yes, I do that up here. Well, I don't have any unused ones, but if I say using system dot, I don't know, buffers, let's put that one in there, right? Well, the paintbrush, I mean, I usually come up here and hit this one. I don't know about the paintbrush. The paintbrush is usually, where does that paintbrush show up? Different times, different things show up. I tend to use this one for remove unnecessary usings. I also often use the, now where is it here? Again, bottom left, no issues found. Oh, look at that. Okay, well, hang on. Let's check that out. So let's put that back in. Issues found. No issues found. I'm not that familiar with, there's so much to this. What I was going to say is I also like to do like code cleanup. To the right is a picture of a paintbrush. Oh, well, duh. Okay, right there. Yeah. Screaming like, it's right there on your screen. Move to the right. I know it because I've been there. So what do we get in here? Oh, so this is what I was going to say. I was just about to say, I like to run code cleanup. I was going to show about doing it, from another way. I didn't know that it's been added to here. And depending on how you have your code cleanup configured, so I can just click that and it will do things. Oh, that's a nice tip. I have never known that paintbrush was there. I don't know how long it's been there. Now, what I usually do is I go in and I configure my own profiles. And if you haven't done that, you can come in here and there's a whole bunch of stuff. So this does format document, remove unnecessary usings, sort usings, apply file header preferences. So I'm not even sure what's in file header preferences, except I probably have none, and that seems to be doing it. But there's all these other things you can do, right? Now, you could probably tell it to like switch everything to be a var if you wanted to, right? Or those kind of things. Apply this qualification. We're like, I'm certainly not going to be doing that, but you could, if you wanted to apply this qualification preferences. And maybe that means if it's based on preferences, maybe that means it would remove them because they are preferences. I don't know. But these are pretty much the standard things that I like. There's nothing in 2 here right now. These are great standards, and particularly just to format the document and stuff like that. So I'm going to start clicking this more often. Now it says no issues found. It's that's interesting. Okay, whatever. I got rid of that thing. I'll play along with that. Oh my gosh. So, writing code. Hello, let's write some code. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my orchestrator is going to call into my data service, and my data service is going to use the repo. Okay. Now, this is somewhat potentially controversial, I will say, because I usually explain this a fair bit to people why I do this. Some people say, well, the repo and the data service become redundant upon each other, but they're really not. They're really not. But let me start off by creating a repo. Now, I'm going to create a repo, and for me, well, I need to create a DB context and that kind of stuff too. And let me see if I could find what I'm looking for on a different monitor here. looking on my monitors. I thought I had a monitor. Oh, wow. That's weird. Could have sworn. Oh, I know. It's in a. Okay. So I'm going to look at some other code I have. So I have. Let's go back over to here. So I have this domain object, right? And that's an entity. Okay. And it uses this entity base class, which has an ID. Come on. Has all it really has in it is this ID. There's an object state stuff in here too, but that's a little bit of entity framework stuff. But I have this integer ID. Okay. And now what I want to do is I want to create a DB context to use that. So if I go into my domain, I'm just going to put it right in here. And I'm going to call this thing the feedback DB context. Why not? It's as good a name as any. Now, I have up in here some helpers. I have an interface for a DB context. These are things that I've sort of created that I reuse on a lot of things. Okay. And it's going to make some things easier for me in testing and creating these classes and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this DB context. I'm going to say it is a DB context, which isn't going to work because I don't have a reference to entity framework. Now, it might just tell me add a reference using, maybe I do have, well, I have it in this solution, but I don't have it in there. But that should, let's just look over here under dependencies and under frameworks. Oh, that's interesting. Microsoft Entity Framework Core is, that's interesting. I'm going to come back and think about that later. Because shouldn't it have added a Nuget reference for that? Maybe it doesn't need a Nuget or DB. I don't know. Well, let's just come back to that. I like to say come back to things. What the heck? And so what I'm going to do next is I'm also going to create an interface. I'm going to kind of do this manually for now. Public interface I feedback DB context. Right, and I'm going to say this is an IDB context. Okay, and this should pull it using from my common .NET data stuff. Okay, so it is an IDB context, and now I'm going to also say it is an iWritable DB context. So I have these. I like following some solid principles here, right? And one of them is the interface segregation principle. And so I have a different interface for a DB context that I can save data to, writable, and one that's read-only. Often we have read-only stuff in our repos and things like that, and I like to be able to separate those out. Hang on one second here. Let's see. So. And then of course I need to make this thing here. Now, I also need to have these DB sets, right? So in this thing is going to be DB set. Well, really can just do it. I mean, normally I do it like this way, DB set, and I'll say this is going to be a feedback. And this is a weird one. Oh, this is interesting because feedback is the plural of feedback. Feedbacks? I don't know. If I call it feedback, I guess feedback is plural, right? I wonder if that's going to get confusing because this is a collection of feedback. Oh, I love to make things more difficult for myself, right? So this is also going to go up in the interface as well. Okay, and then I need to do that a little bit. So because I have this, and I'm kind of copying some code. I don't have this code, but I have other things in my, just an example of the way I've done this in other projects. If I do this, it's going to ask me to do some other things, right? That's fine. So I think it's a little, I don't know why it's explicitly doing that. I shouldn't need that. But see something here. Feedback. Interesting. Interesting. Context, feedback, DB context. This isn't the way I normally do it. I want to see what happens if I do it more the way I normally do it. So if the other thing I need here is a constructor. And this needs to take in DB context options of type feedback DB context. I'll call that options. Oh, sorry, put this in the wrong spot here. Wasn't paying attention here. And then here I'm going to say base options. And DB context. Doing something messed up here. My base context. I wonder if this is, I copied this stuff into here from another project I have, which might be on a different version of things, and that could be screwing things up a little bit. So here I have DB set of feedback. Oh, well, I need this. This is what the problem was. Probably that was part of it. That fixed some of it. And then base, oh, this doesn't go here, right. That's what I get for trying to like copy my own code. Wait, I thought. Add body. Do I have a body? I forget the semicolon. Okay. This is actually what I wanted to do. A little sloppy getting there. Sorry about that. So what I have here now is this DB context, right? This is a so much straightforward DB context. Because I use these feedback DB, so because I use my own IDB context and my own writable DB context, it's going to help me later. You have to have a DB context to work with Entity Framework, at least. I don't know that there's any way around that. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a repository, okay? And if I go in here and say add new feedback repository, CS, okay? Now, and again, I'm looking at my a little bit of a cheat sheet here. I'm actually going to, you know what? Let's just copy this. This is going to be, I'm going to rename some things because I've got some from a sample that I wrote up from some documentation. So if I put feedback in here, I'll explain this in a second, but if I put feedback into there, okay, and now just put feedback into all the places where that goes there, and the DB context is going to be the feedback DB context. And this is going to go here. Okay. And this is going to be called the, oh, well, what'd I do? Look at that. I kind of did that all weird. Cutting and pasting is, you know, a skill in itself. Hey, watch this. Ready? Where's that little, it's gone. Oh, here it is. Paintbrush. Boom. Formatted. Love it. Thank you. This is going to be called the feedback repository. And this will be the, take that away. It probably would have been quicker if I wrote this thing from scratch. And I have this iEmployer repository. This is going to be a iFeedback repository. Generic feedback, feedback, feedback. These variables are named wrong, but that doesn't matter. And doesn't like generic writable repository because I must have done something else wrong. Oh, data, right, okay. So, and then this is complaining, let's just check something here. Feedback, feedback, DB context, iFeedback repository, let's call this a feedback DB context and pass it along to there. And why is this not happy? Cannot be used as a type parameter. TDB context. So I did something is not wired up properly. So it's saying that I can't use this feedback DB context here. Is that supposed to be an I? Let me just check. This will look impressive if I was doing it correctly, I think. IDB content. Did I do something wrong here? Context. B context is an IDB context and is a writable DB context. And looking to see if there's something else in my notes where I forgot to add something. Generic. So the point is, when I'm done with this, I'll just show you what I'm cutting to the chase of. When I'm done with this, and I usually don't have this much trouble, but I'm streaming and that's the way life works, that I can get in here and I have these generic repository things. It's all based on generics. So if I go to my generic repository, I'll automatically have methods like find, async, insert or update, delete, like all the things I want to have, right? It all just sort of comes together for me. However, I think I probably just spelled something. This is a feedback repository is of type generic repository of feedback. Says that the feedback DB context cannot be used as parameter TDB context. The generic type or method, generic repository. There is no implicit reference between Swami Stream's team feedback backend domain feedback DB context to IDB context. And I thought there was to IDB context. So I must have something spelled wrong here because my feedback DB, this is IDB context. And this, is missing I. No, oh, wait. There's a comma here. Something got erased. This is going to be, this is my DB context. Okay. If you're still with me here, this is my DB context, which needs to just have this. I think I must have screwed something up when I did that. And now it has IDB context. Okay, now it's mad again. Did they change this? Did something get changed in here? So if I do this, let's do show potential fixes. Oh, thanks. The DB connection, it shouldn't need a DB connection because that is in the base class somewhere. I'm pretty sure. I thought that I didn't need to do that. DB context. Oh, well, it can't because I'm using DB. I feedback DB context is IDB context and I writable DB context. Let's go back and see what I did here. IDB context. I've used these things out of the box before. IDB context has a DB connection, but see, DB context has that. So since DB context has that, that shouldn't be a problem because DB context has that property unless something got changed when in Entity Framework Core version 5. Maybe something got changed. What is it that I'm looking for? I don't even remember. This is how bad my memory is. DB connection. I thought I handled this problem already. Who's that thing here? Let's see. Feedback. Oops. Uh-oh. Such stat will be removed from the database when... Oh, that's not it. DB connections. So there is no DB connection in here. Is that a change? Or my looking at my thing right. That gets that, and I have DB context. I wonder, context options. Oh, no, I take that back. I think I'm just seeing things. I do need this in here. It was right all along. I was reading my sample code wrong. Needs to have that. Okay, well, that was a big waste of time. But now, the whole idea here, and this is supposed to be like boilerplate code. Let's fix this here, right? This boilerplate code, which I did not do a great job of demonstrating, okay? Anytime I need anytime I need a repository, all I really have to do is come in and copy this code and then change a few class names in there. If I was paying attention, I would have noticed that I had missed this line of code when I copied and pasted before. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my data service and I'm going to inject in, and I guess I can do it in here, ctor, and I'm going to say I need an I feedback repository. Feedback repository. Now let's try our little stuff we were looking at before. I should be able to go here and what was that before? Oh, it's probably on this side here. Introduce and initialize property, initialize field, okay? Except it's giving me the this because it's not putting the things the way I like it. Okay. And so now that I have that, I come in here and I say feedback repository dot insert or update feedback. And this data service is essentially done. Now the problem people might say, and I've heard this before, is, well then what the heck do I need this whole class for? It's a little redundant over this, right? And if you're thinking that, feel free to raise your hand or wave or scream at me somehow and say, well, I don't understand why I have this wasted feedback data service class when all it does is call the repository. I could have just as well put that repository right up here, okay? But there's some reasons I don't like to do that. One of the main reasons is really like sort of single responsibility separation of concerns. So a repository, to me, should handle CRUD. Okay? create, read, update, and delete. And if you look at the repository pattern and the way it's really defined, it's made, the repository pattern is based on handling like CRUD operations on a data set. Okay, a data set being a particular thing. In the case of SQL Server, we would think of that as a table, one object, one collection. So that's what this thing is supposed to do. Okay, now the data, but this is not supposed to handle, you know, querying and business logic, right? Business logic does not go in the repository. However, business logic does not go in the orchestrator either. That wouldn't make this very single responsibility. So business logic goes in the data service. Okay, now, and this is Swami's way of doing things. Now, in this case, there is no business logic, right? There is no business logic here. So why do I need that? Well, I would say this, that there's likely going to be some business logic, because soon there's going to be some method down here, like public, you know, I'll call it void for now, but it's going to be like get feedback for a team or something like that, right? And it's going to take some parameter, X, Y, and Z, whatever it takes, right? And in here, I'm going to build up a query, right? Or whatever it is, right? Or apply business logic of some sort. So that kind of stuff doesn't belong in the repo, and it doesn't belong in the orchestrator. It belongs in what I would call the feedback data service. The data service job is to wrap the repository and apply business logic to it. Now, you could say, well, why did I build it if I didn't need it? And that is also, I don't know if it's controversial or not, but I like consistency. And so some people say, well, why don't we just use the repo right here, you know, repo dot, add or whatever right here. And I feel like, because then it's not consistent, right? And then if I need to put some business logic in, I got to go rebuild out the whole other thing. And I buy into things like the Yagni principle. I buy into all these concepts, but there are certain places where I like to sort of hold firm and say that we should follow a pattern, right? And it's so little amount of work, okay? Because now that I think about it, what I really could have done is I could have gone back to my data service and probably deleted the whole thing. And the reason is I have a generic version of the data service as well. And so because of the magic of generics, I could go into here and I could probably get rid of this, right? And I'm going to say that my feedback data service is an I data service. Oh, no, don't do that. I data service. I think I have this right, of feedback. That's probably not right. If I look up here, I have a data service. And it takes an entity. Yep. Okay. And no, it takes data service. Let's just see what I got here. This is my interface. So the data service is of T, where T is an entity. Okay. And then it gets a writable repo. Okay, so it's going to do this all magically for me. Okay, this is great. This is even better. I forgot about that. So now my data service, my data service can just be this. Okay, and let's see what happens if I do that. It's probably going to bark at me a little bit. Okay, and it's going to say I need to implement the interface. I don't need to implement the interface because I need to change this to be I data service of type feedback. Okay, and I can get rid, let's see if I can get rid of these things. Okay. And, oh, this needs to be, I like using generics to build out frameworks and stuff like that. I think I have this right. Data service. I'll use that one. So, wants to implement that, but I don't want to put all that stuff in here. Data service feedback. That should work. Oh. Data service of feedback. That's better. I think I still have my constructor probably. It's a data service of type of feedback, and it implements feedback data service, which is a data service of feedback. There is no given argument, formal parameter. Yeah, so why isn't it asking me to generate the base constructor? Okay. It should be giving me like a, there. No, not that. Why is it mad? This is so generate base constructor, generic. So it needs the repo, I think. Although maybe it doesn't. There is no argument that corresponds to the required formal parameter repository of data service feedback. So I do need the constructor, right? No, the constructor should do it for it, shouldn't it? The base data service takes an oh, maybe this doesn't work from, okay, it's no big deal. I can put this in here. I'll put this in here. I'll say, because I haven't done this one in a while, I'll be honest. All my fast stuff doesn't look so fast right now. Okay, and in here, I'm going to say I need a no, I'm not putting it in there. So what it wanted was the repository, right? Feedback. No, feedback repository. That do it? That makes it happy, right? Okay. So now, where am I going with this? You might be wondering. You might be following along and thinking this guy's lost his mind because I didn't do a very good job of making things look simple. But let's try it again. Okay. So I have an orchestrator. An orchestrator. Oh, this is just going to be called add now, I think. Yeah, add. Okay. So I have a data service. The data service is generic. Okay, it's generic, and so that it automatically will call the repo that we need if that's all we need to do. But it's generic. Now, of course, I can come in here, and if need be, these are virtual. So if I want to change the way add works, where's add? Get add. It's virtual. I can override this if I want to. If I want to add something different to it, if I want to change the way it works, right? But I can also add more methods. It turns out that usually add, list, get, and delete are what you kind of need out of the box, and there's really not a lot of logic in them in the first place. So I made them generic. The next thing I have is a generic repository. Again, I can add things to that repository if I want, not add to the repo like .add, but I mean I could implement additional methods if I want to. So I've got this generic library here that gives me this whole layer of things, okay? And I hope that kind of makes sense. Now, there's one more thing that I need to do, and that is, if you think about, I'm a fan of the unit of work pattern, and I don't think that Entity Framework is picture perfect implementation for the unit of work pattern. It could be, but I don't like the way it's done. And I'll tell you why next, right? A lot of people would do something like db context dot save changes, and that's not really what it's called, db context, but a lot of people would put something like this in there and say, well, hey, now you've got your unit of work pattern, Andy, and everything is great, right? I can save all these things together. The problem with that is if I have my db context right here, that means I can also do other things on my db context. And this isn't the real db context, but I could come in here and say feedback dot, delete something, right? Or I could come in and go to some other object. Let's just say I'm in my feedback orchestrator, and what if I want to come in here and go db context dot employees dot add or something like that, right? I don't want to be able to do that. I don't want to make it easy to break single responsibility and break the pattern, right? But if I put my db context up in here, you now have access to everything the db context can do. And I don't want to do that. And I don't know if that sounds like it makes sense to some of you, but that's the way I feel about it, right? So what I do is I also inject into here, in addition to these services, I interject an I unit of work. And from here, I'll do the whole thing where oh no, I keep forgetting where it is. It's over here. I'll do introduce field unit of work, and I'll make that an underscore. I'll make that an underscore, and I'll put a comma in here, and I'll make that an underscore. Okay. Oh, this one's not right. I did that wrong. Oops. This gets I unit of work. Add a reference to unit of work. Okay, so I have my own unit of work, and I unit of work. Yeah, I probably need to tell it the DB context. So I'm going to say I unit of work for feedback. All the feedback DB context. Let's use that. That goes there. So now I have this unit of work in here. Let's fix this up a little bit. I feel like I should redo this whole video in a more clear and concise way without getting it wrong. But now I can say unit of work dot save all async. And if I do that, now I've got an orchestrator that calls different things for single responsibility. It calls the converter to convert this entry item into the domain object. It then adds it through the data service. And then it calls the unit of work save all async. And then, oh, let's do this. Let's do await. I can finally get rid of my public async. Now wait, public async, and now I have this method here that is kind of done. Okay, and then the rest of the stuff that I want to do with these feedback things will be simpler, and the rest of the code I write will be simpler too as I go in and add more classes because I made some rather annoying mistakes. But what's nice about this, in my mind, is that the code I need to add, if I was doing it correctly, let's say I have my common library ready, the code I need to add to do all this stuff looks like this, right? I added a repository. Sorry, I added a repository that looks like this. Boom, generics, right? Simple as that. Okay, got a repository that does what I need. Add a data service. Boom, generics. It does what I need it to do, right? And then I add a couple other things, single responsibility, and I have it in my orchestrator. So I see a comment here from YouTube, from DevRub on YouTube, saying CI. Let's put that up here. Cicd Pipeline. Correct, of course. I am not done. This is not done. Don't have my Cicd pipeline wired up yet. Let me just check something here. And I usually try to do that on like right at the beginning of an application, but I haven't done it yet because I really wanted to get in. This series of streams was about working with Blazor and a back-end service to support that Blazor application. And so one of the next things I need to do is like, okay, I've got some code written here. What you don't see is any unit tests, right? Because I was trying to like plug through some of this stuff. I'm using a lot of generic base classes, and so there's not a ton of unit tests to write yet, but there are a few that I need to write. If I was looking in here, I would want a unit test, certainly this class in here. You could call it a kind of an integration test, if you will. Depends on how liberal you are with the concept of unit testing. But the point is, I would unit test this, and then when I commit all that, and I'm gonna make a commit real quick just so I don't forget. Then what I should be doing is building out my CI/CD pipeline. Now the CI/CD pipeline. Well, let me put a comment in here. And let me put a comment in here. So I'm going to say wired up generic repo data service to orchestrator, or whatever that means, right? To me, I kind of know what that means, right? I wired those things up. Now, none of this is going to work, by the way. DevRub mentioned the CI/CD pipeline, but what I don't have in here yet is any actual dependency injection. It's not going to work because I didn't tell ASP.NET to do my dependency injection for me yet. So this wouldn't actually work yet. I didn't add a connection string or anything like that. I don't have a database. So CI/CD pipeline, what I'd like to do is use, I'm really comfortable with Azure DevOps and the pipelines in there. I'd like to do this via GitHub Actions, which is something that is new to me, that I haven't really done yet. I'd like to do it via GitHub Actions to do the build and to do the unit tests, to run the tests. And then I'd like to have the CD pipeline run an ARM template, or maybe even Bicep, which generates ARM, but use Bicep and ARM templates against my Azure repo and then deploy the code against my Azure repo. And that is a different day's show. And I think, and there won't not be a stream tomorrow at lunchtime, or I say lunchtime for me because I'm here in the Eastern US, and this crosses over the lunchtime, but the afternoon, let's just say. I will not be streaming tomorrow, and I will be streaming again, hopefully on Thursday and Friday. And those might be the days when I build out the entire pipeline from here. I've used ARM templates a lot, but I've not used Bicep, and I think I'm curious to know, I don't know if people are using ARM or using Bicep or any of that kind of stuff. But the whole idea is to have infrastructure as code, meaning that my resources in Azure will be created via code, and then the content of those resources will be deployed via the pipeline after that, right? So create a web service or create an app service in Azure, and then deploy the application into them. Both those steps will be done automatically. So what do I want to do next? So if I ran this would fail. It would fail because my web API right in here isn't instructing this thing how to create the services that it needs. Okay, it's not going to do that. So for instance, I have a class called, if I look at my my orchestrator, the first thing it needs is this feedback converter. It needs an I feedback converter. And I haven't told ASP.NET, this is going to officially be running within ASP.NET, even though this isn't ASP.NET code. It's going to run as part of the controller, or it's injected into the controller. The controller is going to come up, right? Let's talk about dependency injection a little bit. What's going to happen is we're going to get a request into the feedback controller. Oh, well, okay, and this doesn't have anything in here yet either. Let's take this one step further then. Let's create, in my feedback controller, I'm going to add a reference. I'm going to add a project reference to my backend. Okay. And next, I'm going to say I want an instance of my orchestrator. Okay, so I'm going to say private read-only I feedback orchestrator. And I'll call it feedback orchestrator. Okay. And give me a using. No. I feedback orchestrator. Funny that I put it down at the bottom. Oh, I know why. Because I didn't extract my interface. Doesn't exist yet. So let's go over here. Do extract interface. Where is extract interface? Am I missing it? Extract base class. Am I running? No, okay. So why am I not getting extract interface like I did before? I don't know why. Odd. Public class feedback orchestrator. Usually right here. Oh, extract interface. Gosh, I thought it was usually higher up than that. Okay. Add to current file. I've got that. Okay, so now let's come back over to my controller and it should give me a using. There we go. Okay, so I've got my feedback orchestrator, and essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this stuff in here. So let's get rid of this. We don't need that. We don't need that. Okay, so this is for testing. I have this fake circumstance here that happens, so don't worry about that. I say feedback, add feedback async. It's going to take feedback entry. This is asynchronous, so I'm going to await this. Okay, I'm going to get the response. I have to figure out what to do with that. So now if we think about this, okay, now here's where this is going to fail right now if I was to try to run this, probably for various reasons, but I have this, oh, wait, I didn't inject this in. So I'm going to go to this little thing there. Where is it? Oh, I did it the wrong way. It's okay. Let's just do ctor. And I'll take one of these. Stick it in there, get rid of that, and say feedback orchestrator equals feedback orchestrator. Okay, so what would happen here is this is going to fail because when a request comes in, it's going to say, well, I need a new feedback controller, right? Routing is going to try to create a feedback controller, and it's going to fail. It's going to say, well, I don't know what a feedback orchestrator is. That's the first problem. Okay, so what I need to do is come over here and say services dot add what's the word I'm looking for? What do they call the scope? Add scoped maybe? Do I want scoped or do I want add transient? I think I'll use add transient. I think that's the and I'm going to say I want to add an I feedback controller and use a feedback controller to fulfill that, right? So what this says is into my IOC container, come on. Do I need I had a reference. A transient feedback controller. Oh, wait, hang on. Not a feedback controller, a feedback orchestrator. Sorry. Orchestrator. And when I get one of those, now I get my using statement. Okay, perfect. So when the ASP.NET tries to figure out how to generate this controller, it says it needs an orchestrator. This thing is going to say, well, this thing is going to say, well, if they're asking for an iFeedback orchestrator, go ahead and create a feedback orchestrator, right? And we're just removing the I, essentially, is what we're doing, right? We're saying fulfill. This is my instructions for inversion of control. Now, this is going to fail because when it goes to create this feedback orchestrator, which is right over here, it's going to say, well, I need these three other things. I can't keep going without these other things, right? So what I have to do is I have to tell it to do all those other things right here, okay? And there's an easier way to do it, I think, which is to use Lamar, which is another inversion of control container that I'm going to sort of inject into here. So let's switch over and go here and add manage Nuget packages. Now I think there's more than one Lamar. Oh, not installed. Browse for Lamar. Microsoft Dependency Injection. Which one of it do I need? This is the part I always forget, and I have it written down somewhere. Where did I write it down? Looking at my notes here. Do I have? Let's see. Let's try. I feel like it's this one's got more, but I feel like it's this one. See, yeah, Lamar adapter for ASP.NET Core. Okay, good. I'm going to install that. Now to use this, do I have a blog? I might even have a blog post about this. Nothing found. Okay. I've written this up somewhere, the instructions on how to do this, but that's okay. Go to, not to startup, but I need to go into program. I think in here, I need to say like use Lamar. So what I'm going to do is double check because I forget the syntax here. Use Lamar with ASP.NET Core. Hopefully there's an easy. I'm just going to scroll because I've done this before. It's not what I want. I want to say builder.use Lamar. I think it's as simple as that. And then this is the one I need to do. I need to change this to be web host builder. This is where I need to say use Lamar. So create web host builder, args dot use Lamar. Okay, and then might be it for that, except then I need to add a method called configure services in my startup. And that's, oh, I have the configure services. Okay, so I already have that. I thought they changed it. Maybe I'm thinking of something different, but configure services, my web API. Now instead of saying services.add transient, I can say let's see. What's another way? Oh, yeah, I'm right. I need to add in, for some reason they don't use this configure services for Lamar. They use a different model, which is this, configure container. And it'll get called automatically, I think, as long as I have that using statement in there. And so it's going to pass into service registry. And then this is the cool part right here. So I can get rid of this, right? If this, let's see if this works right. Because this is going to call the calling assembly. So it's going to look in the assembly and it's going to scan it with default conventions. And default conventions pretty much says, let's see, oh, I deleted that line of code in there. Pretty much says that if you have a situation like this where the only difference is the letter I, that's the default convention, right? It'll say, well, I'm going to give you one of these. I'll give you one of these if you ask for one of these, right? I'll just remove the I and figure it out for you. Except that I have other things outside of the calling assembly in here. So I'm going to say s dot, I can't remember how to work this thing. Assemblies. Maybe it's just this, assembly name. There's a way to do this with like, let's just Google something real quick here. Lamar sorry, I don't know why this thing's going to. I feel like looking at some other code I have. It's this thing like ends with assembly. Which one is it? Assemblies containing type, assemblies from, it's like this. Oh, I know what I can do. Duh. I think I can just do with the name in it, right? Assembly name. So I don't know why I was trying to do another shortcut that I've used before, but I really just need to do this. So it's going to be Swami streams.common.net, right? And I need to do Swami streams team and that might be enough. I don't know if I even need to use the shared one. Let's try that. Now, this won't really run, but it should build, right? It should start. And it'll fail if I click the button, I think, because I don't think anything's going to work. But let's see what happens. Oh, you know what? The DB context might crap out because it's going to look for like a config setting or something like that. I'm not positive this is going to work. But it might. Just for kicks, let's try. Should fail. Well, I don't know. Will it fail? So got a breakpoint. What did it do? Yeah, okay, good. Oh, sorry. It's on the wrong screen. This is exactly what I was expecting. Some stuff like this. All right. I forgot to wire up so there's certain things that that scan and default configurations can't do. One of the things is it can't figure out how to create like my unit of work and things like that. That's to be expected. I actually have some code on a different screen that I had prepared so that I would be able to find it. Well, let's see if I can remember where it is. So I had a sample over here. I'm going to go back to startup. And in here, I'm also going to say services.addTransit, iUnit of work, and I'm going to change this to be called the feedback DB context. And context. This is going to go here. That's going to go there. And this is going to use SQL Server. I didn't add a reference for that. I need to add, come on, is that going to help me? You know, these little tooltip things. You see this happening here? This is like making me crazy. It won't do anything, but that's okay. I need to add a reference to make that use SQL Server happen. This one, I just add to some usings in here. I don't know why it doesn't add all usings at once. There is no implicit reference conversion from unit of work to work. I thought, let's just see what else is going on here. Maybe that's the problem. Okay, got my usings in there. It wasn't like using SQL Server. And that's because it's still not going to help me. I need to add a reference to like, what is it that I need to add a reference to? I think it's like Entity Framework SQL Server or something like that. So let's just see if I can get lucky. Nuget packages, Entity Framework. I can remember what it's called. Like SQL, this one. I think it's this one. So I'm just going to try it. See if I'm right. We'll do this. Okay, now if I go back to here, oh, come on. This thing is really annoying me. It should give me the ability to add the using, but that means possibly I didn't add the right thing. Let's just try something like this. Oh, maybe it's telling me right in the error. Use SQL Server. I'll be found. It's not telling me which thing it is. Oh God. Reference. Which one do I need? Microsoft Entity Framework Core? Entity Framework Core SQL Server. All right. Thought that's what I added a reference to. Entity Framework Core SQL Server. What did I add a reference to, Andy? What did you screw up? Added it? Well, I don't know. Let's... Oh boy, look at all these usings. Where'd it go? Well, that fixed it. Okay. So I don't know why it wasn't helping me. This other error is annoying it even more, and it's annoying me a bit as well. So it's saying services.add transient unit of work of feedback db con. Maybe this needs to be just that. No, that shouldn't be right. This is right, because I have a unit of work of Am I missing another reference? Feedback DB context is, like, it knows about that. Yeah, what is not right? Unit of work, if I go to that class, maybe it's... Let's see. Wow. Just looking at the delay. The delay on YouTube is so long right now. I want to take a look at Twitch. So if I put my hand like that, 1, 2, 3, 4, oh, 5. Oh, that wasn't so bad. But the delay on YouTube, if I go like that again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. This is crazy. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. It's still like, I don't understand. Maybe it was my particular browser was way behind. It just is way behind. I don't understand exactly what's going on. I don't know. Whatever. Why isn't this working? Yeah, transient. Unit of work. So if I go to unit of work, unit of work of TDB context. Yeah, well, that's because of the I, but it I feel like it's going to be pissed if I do this. That's not the... Wait. Oh, I got two. Yeah, I got two brackets there. I'm not sure. Oh, wait. It went away. Did it go away, or am I just not seeing the right? What did it do? What did it do? I looked away for a minute, and the squiggly's gone. I had feedback spelled wrong. Oh, come on. Wow. Well. How about that? So this should wire up the stuff. Let's just see. Again, oh no, this is going to be a problem here. This connection string, I'll call this the feedback connection. But this is still going to get upset, I think, when it tries to connect. I'm not sure how that'll work. So where does that go? That's going to go in here. Where do I put like connection strings? Oh God, if I remember this. Connection. I need to put something in there. Connections or connection strings? So many things I can't remember how to do. App settings.json connection string. So basically, it is connection string. So it's going to look like this, right? Let's just pop that in there. And this is going to say back connection. Now this doesn't go anywhere. DB2. My DB. I don't know. Hopefully this will be enough just to get the dependency injection to work. And then I'm going to take a break because this is not a great day of coding. Luckily, even I'm yawning. Luckily, I've been here by myself most of this time. If anybody's hanging in there, if you're hanging in there and you're watching this mess, let me know. If you're, oh God, it's hard to even imagine. So, oh, where is my Swagger came up? So that is a good, well, I think I got this far before. Now I got to make a call, right? So let's go to post feedback, write out, execute, not build registered, feedback orchestrator, cannot fill, blah, 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 unit of work. Still not happy about the unit of work. Well, that could be because of the connection string. I don't know, would it go that far? I don't know how far it goes, but I don't really care. I don't really care because I'm going to do other work for a while. So I'm going to wrap up this painful, I'm going to go out on a limb and say painful edition of Shwami Streams, writing server-side code for my Blazor application. But I hope you'll come back another time and suffer through this again with me. I will be back Thursday and Friday, I hope, around 11:30, 12 o'clock U.S. Eastern Time. And thanks for being here with me. Have a good day.